Support for your public radio station comes from our members and from Maker Faire Rochester, a family-friendly showcase of invention and creativity featuring DIY science, handmade crafts, workshops, and more, Saturday, November 15th at the RIT Gordon Fieldhouse. Tickets at rochester.makerfaire.com. From Seneca Grain and Bean, offering food-grade organic grains and beans grown in the Finger Lakes to wholesalers, restaurants, and consumers. More online at senecagrainandbean.com.
From WXXI News, this is Connections. I'm Evan Dawson. Well, our connection this hour was made on election night where, in a number of races, glass ceilings were broken. Some in places where, well, there'd never been a black woman on the town board in Greece, and Amorette Miller won that seat. And there hadn't been a Democrat since the early 1980s in Penfield in the supervisor's role, and Kevin Barry won that race. And there hadn't been a Democrat in Perinton since, I guess, 1917 in the town of Perinton, and Jenn Townsend won that race. And so this is a chance this hour to talk about how they did it and what exactly can be learned from these places where, for a long time, it was one-party rule. Now, of course, in places like the city of Rochester and a lot of urban centers in the country, it's hard for Republicans to win. That will be a big story the next time it happens, and we will cover it. It did not happen this year. But in these places, it did for Democrats, and they had been working hard to change that. So let me welcome our guest back to the program. Supervisor-elect in Perinton, Jenn Townsend, welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Supervisor-elect in Penfield, Kevin Barry, welcome back to you.
Thank you.
And town council member-elect in Greece, Amorette Miller, welcome to you.
Thank you, Evan.
So Kevin and I were talking about the fact that a couple years ago when I met Kevin for the first time, it was election night, and we were looking at all these local results. And wow, there's a race in Penfield where it's a one-vote margin, and that was Kevin Barry up by one vote on election night. Ended up being like a 20-vote win, but it was not one vote on election night this time around. You won by what, around 1,000 votes?
Around 1,000, yes.
Were you surprised?
Yes. Yeah. I thought that we would win. I was not expecting a margin like that.
What does it tell you? I mean, what do you take from it?
One thing I take from it is that it was really important that we really listened to the residents. I think that was really the key to our victory.
Okay, well, over in Perinton, it was supposed to be close.
Right.
And what was your margin?
About 1,400.
1,400 votes, so not all that close.
Not all that close.
Were you surprised?
I think similarly. I think, there was a lot of energy, and we felt really good going into it. But there's no polls. You really don't know. And so we were happy to be winning, but to be winning by that much, I think really spoke to how we approached the campaign.
And in Greece, Amorette, did you expect to win a town board seat?
I hoped to win. So Greece is interesting, where we have 1/3 of the electorate are independent. And although in my particular ward, there are 1,200 more Democrats than Republicans, we didn't know at the time which way the independents swung. So that was where I had to make an impression it was at those doors. And mine was like 190 spread.
190 votes.
Yes.
Okay. So, in the end, 190 votes is not one vote. You won comfortably enough. Mm-hmm. Were you surprised on election night?
Oh, goodness. So we were all in a room and just kind of like gasping, and we didn't know. And the stress for any candidate on that night, if anyone ever wants to run anywhere around the world, I'll tell you for sure that night is worse than your wedding night, worse than right before you have a baby. I mean,
it's up there.
Oh, yeah.
You want to confirm that, Jenn?
Oh, yeah. It was very similar. Don't forget to eat, people bringing you food, and your nerves are high for my kids. It was wild. There was a lot of kids involved in our campaign, and I probably had a number of 11-year-olds coming up to me 14 times. Do we know yet? Do we know yet? I mean, they were feeling the heat too, so it was real.
And Jenn didn't have at least the experience that Kevin had, which is running for town board, winning an absolute squeaker, going through that. So you went straight for the supervisor seat there. So you had to do this for the first time the whole waited out for the results.
Every single thing we did was scary. The whole campaign was scary. It was like everyone saying, what are you doing? Are you crazy? You're going to lose. Supervisor, you're nuts. So we were pushing against a lot, getting out there and running. So many people said, you do know it's very businessy being the supervisor. And I would say, I'm not sure you'd say that to a man who is running, but I appreciate that.
Hold on a sec. Tell the story again. People would say to you,
they'd say, oh, supervisor. Oh, okay, well, yeah, it's very businessy. And I'd say, well, I have a law degree and a business owner, but
you're a business owner who has worked for years on your own.
So we pushed back against a lot early on. Okay. I think as we got moving in the campaign and started communicating with people a lot, getting into the community, moving on social media more, I stopped getting those comments. And I think people realized that, okay, this woman actually has some experience and would be suitable for this role. But early on, those first decisions, it was kind of a barrier to say we're going to go for supervisor. But I knew to impact the change that we wanted, that was the role that we had to go for.
Amorette, did you get anybody doubting that you would be ready for the role based on anything related to your identity?
Well, I'm in a doctorate program. I'm well educated. I've worked in the labor movement. I was a political director for many years. I've gotten dozens and dozens upon dozens of elected officials across the finish line. So I knew that I can do it and how to do it and what to do and with what resources. I don't think that I got much doubt, but I was running against an incumbent, and I think that's what people feared. Like, okay, Greece is a Republican town. Right. Like, what are you gonna? How is
you
this
were all
gonna
running
happen?
against incumbents? Yeah, I think, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for me, my incumbent was a 6-year incumbent, and I'm a newbie for Greece, 12-year resident, but still, So I think I was just brave.
Yeah.
So.
And for two of the three of you, your opposition tried to tie you to Zoran Mamdani. I saw a mailer with Amorette's picture next to Zoran Mamdani, and I think your comment was, still have never met the guy. But what were they trying to say about you that you were? I guess the idea that Mamdani is a scary figure,
right,
to Republicans or maybe even independents, they think, and so they're just going to tie you to Mamdani.
Oh yeah, I mean what the mailer said clearly at the top, that images had been manipulated. And so it had me like hands with money burning, and somehow that we had some sort of agenda for Greece.
Oh, you were lighting money on fire.
Yeah, money on fire. And I'm like in yellow and all this stuff. But, like roads and things, they're so, controversial, right? We want to put some lights in, maybe a new dog park somewhere. But those things are really not, partisan. They're just regular everyday things that I would like to achieve.
Right, Emma, that's what was really interesting to me is, I no doubt next year Democrats will try to tie a lot of Republican candidates to Trump, and Republicans will try to tie a lot of Democrats probably to Zoran Mamdani, whoever they think is the scary figure that they perceive. But for a local town council race, that was very interesting to me. Like, we're really going granular at the local level here.
Yeah, and the belief system at the local level for council is almost like non-existent. It's like, yeah, we all need the plows to plow. We want the leaves to be picked up. We want the garbage to garbage. And like, well, how are we not seeing eye to eye?
Kevin, you got tied to Mamdani as well?
Yes. Yeah, it was a Penfield Republicans Facebook post basically saying that we were going to bring communism into the Penfield Town Hall. So.
Mamdani's not even a communist. They should have at least tried social. Well, okay. Let's not go down that road. Did you talk to anybody who felt like that resonated at all with them?
No.
Yeah.
And I don't really think it resonated with anyone except people who wanted it to resonate with them.
Yeah, and so all three of you on this, two of you running for supervisor on this program, Amorette just made the point that there's not a very partisan way to run a town well, for the most part. There may be issues that come up that a Republican would handle one way and a Democrat another. For the most part, do you find it, I don't know if it's a nonpartisan job, but is it close to a nonpartisan? How do you see it, Kevin?
I think by and large it's close to a nonpartisan job. I think that when it comes to actual issues like leaf pickup and roads and things like that, there's really not you do what's best for the people of the town. I think philosophy-wise, there's different ways to approach it that are very different for the parties, at least in Penfield. How things are just approached is different.
But I mean, at the same time, I mean, you're the only one in the race who was lighting bags of money on fire, Amorette. So that's pretty partisan. I mean, is there a partisan way to do the job that you now are going to have?
Sadly, I feel like maybe all seats, all voices at the table could be partisan. Like Greece is actually a diverse town. And that became a thing, like, that I had to discover at the doors. Like, oh, wow, we've got such a cornucopia of different backgrounds and viewpoints and ages and all sorts of fun that we can be highlighting and enjoying here at the town more than we have. And I don't want to say it's partisan, but maybe it's generational. Maybe it's just
interesting.
Creative.
Yeah. That's interesting. When Jenn Townsend was on this program, I had two very separate pieces of feedback from listeners on one of the first questions I asked Jenn. So Jenn Townsend running as a Democrat, but I mentioned I went to your website, didn't even see the word Democrat. And somebody wrote in and was like, that was such a gotcha question. You're trying to make her look like she's not an authentic Democrat. And then another Democrat wrote in and was like, thank you for asking that, because Jenn is for everybody. She's not just for one party. And I'm going like, I asked because I thought it was interesting. Right. It was curious to me. And you are someone who's been a registered independent for a long time before this past year. So do you view the job in any sort of partisan way?
I don't at all. I understand the running component being partisan because you need a team to get there. The towns are big, and you need that energy and you need that support. But absolutely not. I think that there has been folks who have run our town who have been Republicans that have not been partisan. I don't think it's always been run with that foot forward. And it's just making sure everybody's heard and is able to have a seat at the table. And that, just like you all had mentioned, there isn't a Republican way or a Democratic way to do it. And having that more independent mindset is what I think maybe makes all of us palatable for everybody. I think most people that live in our suburbs maybe are somewhere in the middle there, and they don't want that upper level politics to be seeping into their town. Right? We want to be insulated. We want to be focused on what's right for Perinton, and same for Greece and Penfield, right? And I think that's the most important thing.
A couple things related to that. Yesterday on this program, one of your colleagues, and probably someone you know well out in Perinton, John Baines, was on the program, a Monroe County legislator. And one of the things that he observed was that local elections, his view, and Howard Mafucci said the same, a Monroe County legislator, he said local elections really are about understanding where the electorate is and trying to be truly representative, not obviously partisan, not rancorous, often governing from the middle. And by the middle, he means trying to be truly inclusive of ideas. Right. And so I said, well, then why the rejection of Republicans in so many places where Republicans have dominated? One of the answers is you've seen voter registration creep. So now there's more Democrats in Perinton. Are there more Democrats in Greece? There's not more Democrats.
In my ward, there are 1,200 more.
In your ward, there's more Democrats, and more Democrats in Penfield.
Yes, and there's also more unaffiliated than
right.
Republicans.
That's part of it. Mm-hmm. So part of it is not only the rise in the Democratic Party registration, but the rise in, again, I was told yesterday, don't say blanks. Blanks would be offended if you called them blanks. The Board of Elections calls you blanks, but you are independents or you are unaffiliated, and you're sort of political free agents, often very proudly free thinking. Mm-hmm. So that really matters. It mattered in your race, but I think the unaffiliated voters moved toward the Democrats in most of these local races. Do you have any sense for that? I mean, do you have a sense for yourself as the next supervisor where you think the unaffiliated are tilting right now?
I think the unaffiliateds that voted were tilting toward us. I think, too, that voting was down for unaffiliateds, just like it was down for Republicans.
Okay. Wow. Motivated Democrats, a little less so on the other. What about you, Amorette? Do you see unaffiliateds tilting in any direction?
So I'm a workers' rights advocate, and if you look at that and how that tracks, I'd be a moderate. And in my thinking is that, for example, police, I want to see us increase staffing. I want to see us being a police officer okay and not so stressful, and make sure they don't have to do overtime as much. That's could be not typical. But those are the types of things I talked about at the doors because they're my personal views on things. They're not necessarily party line.
And there are things that unaffiliated voters are thinking about a lot, you think?
Maybe. But I mean, it doesn't mean that I have to be supported, endorsed by police. I simply care about it. You know, it's okay to care about something strong enough. And so for me, the workers' rights, I led with that workers' rights message, and I don't know where that fits, but that was me.
Mm-hmm.
Is that issue of policing? Well, I don't think that's heterodox in the Democratic Party now. I think there's been a lot of conversation in the last decade, in some ways hyperbolic and sometimes really appropriate, about levels of policing, what we expect of police. But my sense is there is largely, not for everybody, but largely sort of a coalescing around the idea that, okay, there's a national conversation that was had, and people want police, and they want police to do the job well, and they want, in some cases, they want more police. We've talked to researchers in Rochester, often predominantly poor and blacker neighborhoods want more police, not less, but they want it to be done well. So I don't know if that's heterodox in the party. Do voters in Greece think that's kind of a contrary position for you to have?
I grew up in New York City and Oakland, California, here in Rochester on Kingston Street by East High School.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that police are important to our safety, and I personally value their work. And so what I want to see with the Greece police is for them to continue just doing the good PR that they do, highlighting the good things that they do in the community. I'd love to see beats like they used to play basketball with kids all across the state. We can want those things, but we have to staff them appropriately. We have to pay them right, and just make sure that they have the tools to do their job.
In Perinton, where do you think the unaffiliateds were tilting? Any insight there?
I think they were tilting towards us. I think our crew really got out there. We were boots on the ground, knocking on doors in a way that I don't think that our opponents were. I think there was a level of comfort. We were sort of this like scrappy group of underdogs coming in, and I'm not sure they were prepared for the push that was going to really happen. And we campaigned hard. I mean, we had meetings with groups of people and hit every door, and we pushed on social media, and we really got to know the people in Perinton personally very well. And I think that impacted the unaffiliated voters a bit too. I had a woman who said to me, you know, I don't want to talk about politics, but I'm a Genocrat. You know, I'm not and she's like, I've now coined this word Genocrat. And I was like, that's great, because it's not about what you are. It's about who that person is and if they speak to you, right? Because we're the closest level of government to the people. And if we're not approachable, if you don't know your town supervisor and feel as though that's a person that your kids can meet and that school field trips can go, present to the town boards and engage within that civic way, then there's no hope for the higher levels of government. And so making that accessible is something that was really important to us. And I think that that showed. And when they voted, I mean, I had folks send photos of their daughters going to vote with that, you know, they were like young kids. And they're like, I'm bringing my kids to vote for you. They've never cared. No one's ever cared about a local election before. And that was really moving. And so I think the unaffiliateds did lean towards us, and they did because we reached out to them.
The other thing that Legislator Baines was saying yesterday was that in the last 10 years, the improvement that Democrats have had in many towns in terms of registration, often erasing disadvantages and carving out advantages, is because of the hard work, the door-to-door, all of that kind of boots-on-the-ground local politicking. He also thinks it's related to Trump. He says local politics should be local. But when he talks to people, people are exhausted.
Oh, yeah.
And they are, and he points to the fact that in Perinton, 62% of Democrats are women. Nationally, it's 55%. And he said women in particular are done with this. Right. And so even though it's a local race, that still has an effect. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think there was a lot of doors we'd go to and they would just say, what party are you? And you'd say Democrat, and they go, okay, you have my vote. And those almost like those weren't the best doors, because you kind of want to have them meet you and learn about you versus having that. But there was a true exhaustion for just the games of national politics and the showmanship and the performative nature of it all. And I think that talking to people in Perinton and just grounding with them and saying, we're keeping it all out. We want to focus on what our issues are. I think it resonated with people a lot, and they were just done. I mean, I think one of the people that was on my campaign team said, if all the folks standing at a No Kings Parade don't then go vote, I have no faith in humankind anymore. And there's a lot of people standing out there and that had, issues with Trump, and it's like we better see it at the ballot box if you're going to go stand up there and pick it. And so, absolutely, I think people are exhausted, and it certainly showed.
Did you knock on doors where there were Trump signs?
So we did do some blind knocking. So a lot of times you get your list and you go to unaffiliated who may tend to lean, or Democrats. Myself and actually David Masterson, who also ran with me, would go just door to door, right, and not have them on our list. And that's scarier doing that because you hit folks who are adamantly opposed to you running. Sometimes those are the best conversations because they're folks who wouldn't normally be voting for you. And both of us were very centrist candidates and very personal and topic specific. And so chatting with folks about it, and they go, you know what? You seem great. I don't even know our current town supervisor. Nobody's ever even come to my door. So you get that, and that would be positive. But we didn't do it a lot. But yes, there would be folks where there's maybe not a Trump sticker, but there was a lot of other factors where you'd say, this person might not be leaning our way. And you'd knock on that door. And you never know, though. They were not always bad conversations. Some of them were great.
You're nodding. You want to add to that, Amorette?
Oh, yes, because, knocking door to door, you're getting out of your car and walking up a driveway. And so you see the bumper sticker. So you're like, okay, the person listens to WXXI. Okay, I'm walking further. Or the person, it could be a military person. You're like, okay, interesting. But that is what I really found enlightening is conversations with veterans. And they would simply say to me, I believe everyone should be free. Everyone who comes to America should be free. And I really did get that a lot from the veterans that I spoke to of all parties. And it depends on the day whether I was brave enough to visit a conservative door or a Republican door and try to make a pitch.
And you did some?
Of course,
yeah.
I did. And I think that I did resonate with many. I don't know. I think I became timid at times because I'm new and I'm also a woman. And that was another thing is that now forward, I'll be the only woman on the board. So that gave me the fire in my belly to keep going is because if I weren't to win, it would be all men board. And that's not fair to women. I think the perspective is necessary.
Do you think the Trump effect still even affects local politics? Do you think people are tired?
I think Trump does his party no favors. I think those who believe in the Republican tenets are good people, and they're impacted. Their candidates are impacted by this one person, unfortunately.
Kevin, you're nodding there. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. We really engaged in a message of empathy and empowerment where we would say to people, we understand how you feel. You're exhausted. You feel like you don't have any power in politics, that kind of thing. But you do. And where you have your power is locally. And you need to exercise that. And that was a good message that resonated with people.
Okay. Well, when we come back from our only break of the hour, we got to talk about the fact that I assume they want to be in office for more than a year. Got to do this again in 12 months. I mean, there's a quirk here because local elections happen in odd years, but somebody had the bright idea to say, no, we should put them in even-numbered years. I presume that's for cost savings. It's going to change a lot of the dynamics. And for local elections, if you won, you got to do it again in a year as we switch it to the even-numbered years. And that has got to be wild for people who just went through this. I want to talk to our guests about how they feel about that. And they're talking about the glass ceilings that they've broken in various places. Kevin Berry winning in Penfield, the first Democrat since the early 1980s to win the supervisor seat there. Amorette Miller, the first black woman ever elected to the town council in Greece. And as she just mentioned, she's going to be the only woman on the board right now. Jenn Townsend, the first Democrat to win in more than 100 years in the town of Perinton. We'll come right back with them on Connections.
Support for your public radio station comes from our members and from Mary Cariola Center, proud supporter of Connections with Evan Dawson, believing an informed and engaged community is a connected one. marycariola.org.
There are some other firsts that I didn't think I quite realized. Kevin Barry was saying during our brief break, you may have also broken a different kind of glass ceiling that we haven't talked about yet. What is it?
Yes, I could well be the first openly LGBTQ plus supervisor in Monroe County, definitely in Penfield, possibly in the county.
So it's sometimes local history is tough. Thank goodness, by the way, for local historians. Is Bill Perez in your town? Is that
Yes.
right? Oh, way to go, Bill.
He's a gem.
And so many towns have them, and they are the record keepers. They keep so much of the story. So if we don't know about it yet, I got a feeling you are the first in this category. What does that mean to you? Does it mean anything different in the context of this job?
It does in regard to representation.
Okay, yeah.
You know, I've had people say to me, even when I was elected to the town board, you know, it really makes me feel like I belong in Penfield that you have this position now. There were a couple of young women who said that to me, and that really meant a lot. You know, and I think that if there are young people who are thinking about going into politics and have any reservations because of the fact that they are gay, lesbian, trans, whatever, that they shouldn't. Because I grew up in a really rural conservative area, and that was my thinking for a long
Where'd you grow up?
time. Outside of Watertown in a little town called Ellisburg. It was very conservative, and I certainly didn't think that I was going to get elected to any positions in my lifetime.
Okay. Did you have any voters bring up your identity when you were going door to door?
Interestingly, the only people who did were Democrats who were concerned it would be an issue. I never had anyone make it an issue.
You didn't have people who were like, are the fire trucks going to be gay?
No, I do know one prominent party person from another party who made a comment regarding me having drag story hour at the library.
Okay.
But aside from that, I got no negative feedback.
But it's interesting, Kevin, you talk about the concern that Democrats had. That is reflected in the recent memoir from Vice President Harris, who said that her first choice for vice president last year was going to be Pete Buttigieg. And she said she loves him. They're close. She thinks he's totally competent. And she felt like it was hard enough having a black woman at the top of the ticket. And she didn't think adding a gay man, she thought that would have been too much for some voters. She ends up losing. We never would have known, obviously, if that would have changed anything. Mm-hmm. But that's the same kind of thing that you were hearing, which was like, I want you to win, but I'm worried that you're going to have a hard time because of it.
Yes. And basically my thinking is that there are a third of people who will not vote for a gay person no matter what.
You think it's that many?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
A third?
Yeah. Yep. And or close to it.
I think it depends on where you are, and I am so naive. I want to be more optimistic than that.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, certainly where you are may have a factor there, right?
And I'm not necessarily referring to Penfield. I'm more
sure in general.
Yeah, and a lot of it ties into the MAGA movement and that. I think that.
But there are gay people in the Trump administration. He's got gay cabinet leaders.
Yeah.
So I mean, I feel dissonance there, because the Trump administration, the first and the second, both had gay people in prominent positions. Richard Grenell. I was going to say Bessent. I think Bessent is he? Okay, we don't have to go down the list. They have prominent gay people in that administration.
Mm-hmm.
So don't you feel that that's dissonant?
Not so much. I don't want to go too far down this road, but if you look at the policies that the administration espouses, they are not friendly to the community.
No. I'm not saying they're friendly.
Yeah.
I'm saying there's something bizarre to me.
Yeah.
About the fact that your view is that the MAGA movement is very anti-gay, anti-rights for gay people,
mm-hmm.
but there are prominent gay MAGA Republicans, prominent people in this administration.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying that seems dissonant.
Yeah,
to me.
people don't always work in their best interest.
Okay, so lastly, on this subject then, do you feel going forward, similar to what Nicole Hush-LeRae told us earlier this week? She said that in 2016, she was meeting older Democrats who are women, who were like, it shouldn't be Hillary Clinton because the country's not ready for a woman. And she was saying, part of what Nicole was saying this week was, she often hears that from older folks who just don't think the country's ready for change. But when you do that, you foreclose on the possibility of change, and that you've got to be more trusting that people are ready. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I think that's true. Like I said, there's some people that you're never going to change their minds, but they're not the majority. So go for it, because Pete Buttigieg could very well get elected president.
He could be at the top of the ticket in 28. He could, yeah. Amorette Miller, also, there's another sort of glass ceiling for you in your own ward in Greece, right? First Democrat ever?
First Democrat ever.
Okay.
And, speaking about presidential elections, the presidential election that just passed, it made me realize that I have to really get out there and work. If this were 2 years ago, I'd say, oh, I'm a shoo-in. I've got this, but it wasn't so. I really had to push my agenda or who I was, really explain my platform a little bit more, because I knew it was almost exact. It was Black woman running against conservative male. And so, yeah.
So now you have to do this again in a year? Can I ask all three of you about this? I'm pretty plugged in, and we have to be. And I don't even think weeks, maybe a couple months before the election, when someone brought this up, I was like, wait a second, what are you talking about? 1 year term, a 1 year term. Well, we're moving local elections to even number of years. Do you know why we're doing this, Amorette, by the way? Is it for saving costs and putting elections together?
I think all of us realized this once the signatures were in. They sort of said, yep, it's going to happen. And I was like, no, please, gosh, no. And now that all the fundraising has been done and all of that effort has been put in, I say to myself, how am I going to circle back and do this again? But now I think I can do it a little leaner, that I know that the power of in person is the most impactful.
Is this a cost-saving effort? Is that your understanding?
Yes. Yeah.
We're just moving all the elections to the even numbered years?
Yeah.
Or most of them, not all.
So that we won't have to have elections every year.
I don't love it. How do you feel about it?
I mean, I actually think it makes sense, but...
Tell me why you're wrong.
And, I do...
Why does it make sense? Why? Just for the sake of ease for voters?
We spend money to have off-year elections where there's less voters, so it's an efficiency thing. And I'm not saying that I'm advocating for it.
That's their fault.
I understand it.
Everyone can vote whenever. Yep. They can vote every year, Kevin.
Yep. But I'm just giving you the reasons.
All right.
And this year I'm not liking it.
I'm
Right.
Mr. Supervisor-elect, the idea that you think makes sense is going to make you run again in a year.
Yeah.
And, you won by 10 points, I think. Roughly 10 points, is that right?
Yeah, 55-45. Yeah.
Okay, you won by 10 points. It wasn't close, but turnout will be different. You're going to have voters a little less engaged with local politics. And I don't want to generalize, but that is a generally true thing, that they'll come out for the midterms, they'll come out for the nationals, and if you're on the ballot, they'll go, oh, yeah, well, okay, I'll hit this one too. They're less engaged in it. And that's what I don't love. I like asking people to be engaged in your community and having, quote, your year for this. Now we don't have that. So you got to do this again in a year. You ready to do it in a year?
I'm ready to do it. Yeah. I don't love the idea of doing it again in a year. I mean, I really would like my first year in office to focus entirely on the town and not have another campaign.
Right.
Okay. Well, Jenn Townsend, how do you feel about it?
Well, I've accepted it at this point. I understand the rationale behind it. I will say that I liked having our campaign be local focused, and that we didn't have to look up the ticket too far. Like we were almost the top of the ticket, and there was something great about having your community have to focus on local issues independently of national issues. So I think that's a bit of a loss. For me, right now, I'm focused on getting in and doing a great job. And I think that has to be good enough for campaigning, because if we just start campaigning again, what are we campaigning on? Right? We need to prove to people that they made the right decision and they voted for the right person, and that we're going to do the things that they are expecting us to do. And so that's really going to be my focus. And if I can do my job well, then hopefully next year it's not going to have to be what it was this year for campaigning.
I want to read from Marina Pino, who is counsel in the Elections and Government Program at the Brennan Center for Justice at NYU Law, who made the following comment after this change happened. Quote, "This ruling is a major victory for New Yorkers. Voter turnout drops sharply in odd-numbered years, especially among young voters and voters of color. Shifting to an even-year election cycle will encourage more New Yorkers to participate in local democracy, making elections far more inclusive and representative. Voting in New York should be convenient and accessible. This law is a vital step in that direction. Next, it is up to state lawmakers to build on this achievement. They must begin the process amending the state's constitution to move all city elections to even years," end quote. All right. Okay. I mean, I want it to be accessibility does matter.
Right.
And in reality, if there are fewer young voters, I think that's on young voters. If there's fewer voters in poor districts or fewer voters of color, I think we have to ask structurally why that's happening, and we should care.
Right.
I don't know that this is the remedy, but it's going to happen, and hopefully it will at least get people to be engaged. So, enough about that. Let me get some of your feedback, listeners. This comes from, this is Sean in Fairport, who says, "I used to ignore party affiliation, but now I feel that if a candidate still identifies as a Republican, they have lost my vote." That's Sean in Fairport. Well, that's in your neck of the woods there in Perinton.
Right.
What do you say to that?
I mean, Sean has a right to feel how he feels, right? I mean, he's going to be impacted by politics in the way that speaks to him. And if that means that, I mean, it doesn't necessarily equate to him voting for a Democrat or voting for someone else. Maybe he just doesn't vote. So I don't know if it necessarily means that, he'll reach across the aisle. But I understand if there's a lot of folks that are feeling left out of their own party. I think Amorette put it well, where Trump does them no favors, and they're looking for a home. And I think the party that maybe can accept folks who have a bit more of a diversity of thought ends up being the Democratic Party. Then so be it.
What do you think, Amorette?
I think that we have to understand that our values can change. You can still identify with your party, and we have to do a better job to get it across that when you're in the ballot box, when you're in the booth, you make your own decisions, but you still leave a Democrat, you still leave a Republican, but in there you're expressing your feelings about current day, and that's okay. That doesn't water down your particular party affiliation. It's just how you feel for those who are making the decisions for you right now.
That's well said.
Kevin, what do you think?
I mean, we really tried to reach out to Republicans because we feel that many of them do feel disaffected. And, I think that really worked. I understand the frustration that people have. I think that all we can do is give an alternative to everyone, whether they're a Republican, a Democrat, whatever.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that anyone is reaching out to people who didn't vote for them. And if you're elected, you should. And I'm sure all of you will. And frankly, I'm sure there's many Republicans in government who do the same. Mm-hmm. And that is what is healthy. I've said it before in this program. I'll say it again. When Nancy Pelosi decided she was not going to run for re-election, I saw a lot of people sharing the video of her first day or her first time at a State of the Union as Speaker of the House. And the president was a Republican, George W. Bush. And he gave the most beautiful introduction for Nancy Pelosi. She got 3 standing ovations from everyone, including the Vice President Cheney. President Bush talked about Nancy Pelosi's father, what he would think of the moment. It was beautiful. Nobody cared that. People weren't like, wait a second, that's a Republican president? He should not be saying that. And now part of why I think people like Sean and Fairport feel the way they feel is the current president is talking about anyone who didn't vote for him as if they are not worthy of federal aid in an emergency, support from government, respect. That's not where we want to go. And I know that's not where most people in government want to go, thankfully. Republican, Democrat, unaffiliated. But that's what's really unhealthy. Do you think locally you can stem some of that tide, whether you're a Republican, whether you're a Democrat? Do you think that you can repair some of that, Kevin?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think that's kind of all of our mission, right? Is to do that, because on the local level, we can show respect. We can show that we tolerate each other's views, that people can disagree with us without there being ramifications, without there being payback. I mean, all of those things are just the complete opposite of what America stands for. And locally, every one of us can take that stand and say, it's not happening here.
Amorette, what do you think?
We all park and pay the meter on Main Street. We all want to see Main Street plowed. We all have the same needs. And I think now voters and residents and just folks in general want to see everyone treated fairly, with respect. And I think they're just simply tired.
Jen, what do you think?
I agree. I think it's more exciting for folks now to see that civil discourse happen well and consensus be reached and compromise be had. That's almost more unusual and exciting than the clickbait kind of jerky things people say to be more partisan. And like, for example, for us in Perinton, my transition team getting me up to speed is bipartisan. We have, Jim Smith, who was the old town supervisor, as part of it. So we're really focused on making sure that we keep the tradition of Perinton alive and bring in those who were a part of it. And that's a lot of Republicans. And it's not about being a Republican or a Democrat. So making sure that party line isn't a factor is going to be something that we all do. And moving forward, if we can show and give people a little bit of hope that government can work effectively at this lower level, I think that's kind of our job to do, right? To say, like, look, here's an example of it happening well. Look at us talking about this. Look at us having a disagreement and still being able to engage with each other. If we're able to show that happening here, hopefully that rubs off moving up.
Do you mind if I tell the story of some of what you said after you were on the show?
Sure. Oh,
okay.
yeah.
All right. You're trusting me to tell the
Yeah,
story.
go
This
for
was
it.
not on the air. When Jenn Townsend and Karen Hanna, the incumbent supervisor, came on the program, they were the only ones who came on together as supervisor candidates in the recent cycle. And I really appreciated that. Now, I will say the incumbent in Penfield, Jeff Leanhoutz, got back to us, I think, that morning and was still trying to shake out a schedule and make it work. He could not do it. I don't think... I didn't get the impression there was anything malicious about that. I think he genuinely was pretty busy. So I'm just observing what happened. But Jen comes on with Karen. I think they had a good civil conversation. Mm-hmm. And afterward, Jen said, we're walking out, and Jen said, I like the fact that I feel like, just as a resident in Perinton, whoever wins, the town's going to be okay.
Right. And I meant that. And the hardest part for me about running was that I truly like Kieran. He's a good person. He is a good man. He truly cares about Perinton. And so we weren't running because we didn't like each other. There was nothing moral or, malicious behind opposition. It was merely the very boring concept of the fact that we communicate differently and we have different priorities about the town. And you really had to hash out each of us as a candidate in order to determine who you wanted to vote for, because you were kind of in good hands either way. Just which way do you feel like being communicated with by your supervisor? And that's what I think made it so hard coming in and doing the show, was because it was awkward to be opposing someone and be like, sorry, I'm running against you. I mean, like, it was.
I know this feels really personal.
Because it is,
Sure.
It's his job, it's his health care, and it's, so he was so gracious about the whole thing, and he has been. And through this transition, we've already been texting with one another. We're meeting on Monday to talk about our transition and go over things. So, he is handling it the way that I knew he would handle it, putting Perinton first. But yeah, it was, it coming into it, I think we both felt as though we were both here for the right reasons.
Yeah, it didn't feel, I think part of what you're indicating in that comment was, whatever happens, even if it's not the outcome I want,
Right.
It doesn't feel existential.
Right, exactly.
And my 13-year-old asked me recently, he's like, were there presidential elections that didn't feel like the whole world was at stake every time? And I said, yeah, like, honestly, yes. And I don't want to, I don't want to be naive, because I've got a lot of advantages that a lot of people don't have. So, like, my life's pretty good. I'm very lucky. And there's people whose lives have been deeply affected by elections going back decades. I get it. But it didn't feel as existential as it does in recent years. And kids feel that. So if you can model on a local level that we can respect each other and we can respect the outcome, that's really healthy.
Right.
And maybe that trickles upwards. So you've had a good experience post-election. How's your experience been post-election in Penfield?
It's been great. Everybody's very
Total
cooperative.
class?
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I will say is, 2 years ago, the town board was entirely Republican, and now it's going to be entirely Democrat. And, one thing is that we definitely need to be aware that we are representing everyone. But I do have to say that I had the utmost respect for the 2 town board members who were Republicans who got defeated this cycle. We worked very well together, and I have to give them kudos for that.
Candace Lee and
Bob Ockenden.
Bob Ockenden.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what about you? How's it been post-election?
I can't overstate the utility of running a clean campaign, because coming out of it, you have to work with those of the other party coming out of it. And I ran a clean campaign, and I was so happy about it. And I just thought to myself, what if I hadn't? What if I wanted to just go adversarial? How could you live post-election with yourself? How could you get things done with that bad blood? And I think, on the other side, running a clean campaign, I'm peaceful. I can't wait to work with my colleagues. I got a call from Dave Antelli, who was a current council member who also won the next day and congratulated me. And so, I'm happy. Looking forward to January.
Let me grab a phone call in Fairport. This is Robert. Hey, Robert, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. First off, on that switch to where they're switching the elections to even years, one reason for this is the Republicans tend to vote in higher levels on odd years because you don't have the umbrella of a national campaign driving people to the polls. So fewer voters, fewer Democrats tend to vote on those days than Republicans. But that's neither here nor there. You have 2 people on your show there from Perinton and Penfield. 24 hours ago, over 100 cars were broken in, and this is something that we're hearing about repeatedly in Rochester. Windows broken, stuff stolen, guns in some cases stolen. If they were supervisor now, what would they do?
Thank you, Robert. Let's start in Perinton. Jenn Townsend.
I mean, it's pretty unusual for us. So this is something new for our town that we've had to encounter. And I think that working towards public safety is something we don't have our own police department, but working with the sheriff and having to hone in on making sure there's more people patrolling, there's more lights in areas, and that folks are aware that things could happen, and to lock your doors and to be engaging with that more is something that we're absolutely going to have to do, knowing that this is now happening in Perinton. I think it was a shock for a lot of people.
Where did the break-ins happen?
They were
Whitney Road.
Whitney, and then another apartment complex nearby on Whitney.
So cars parked at apartment complexes?
Yes.
Not in commercial centers?
Well, they're kind of combination apartment complex commercial centers. Yeah.
Okay. Anything you want to add there, Kevin?
We've had some issues with this over the last couple of years. Apartment complexes. Actually, it happened in my neighborhood fairly recently that someone was tampering with cars. We also don't have our own police force. So, I'm looking forward to, working with the sheriff's office and pairing with Jenn to deal with issues like this, for sure. In Penfield, we do have our own public safety department, which patrols our town properties, and I've really pushed for them to be well-staffed and well-funded because they protect the parks, the buildings, different things like that, and and while they're out and about, if they saw anything that was going on that wasn't on a town property, they also would make sure that was taken care of.
Corey writes in to say that part of the reason for combining election cycles is due to the lack of volunteers who work 16-hour days on election day. That may be the case. I don't know that that's the case. But let me just salute the volunteers who do that. Thank you very much. And the Board of Elections is always saying it's great to have support. So hopefully that they've got everything they need in future elections. But anyone who is volunteering, thank you very much. And briefly, we got to get this tight before we end the program here. Michael in Fairport. Fairport's coming out of the woodwork today.
Right.
Michael says, will the candidates promote the fact that they are Democrats in their next campaigns? No candidates seem to have done that in many years. Lawn signs never mention party affiliation. That's from Michael. Jen?
I don't think I'll put it on my sign. I don't think there's a need to. I think that you vote for the person you want to vote for. But obviously people are going to know I'm a Democrat. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm proud of it and happy to state that I am. But I'll probably have it posted in the same amount of places I did this time.
Okay. Amorette.
I ran as a Democrat. It's on all of my lit proudly on my website. I mention it at the doors. I wanted to win that way. I didn't hide it. And I'm proud.
Kevin?
Well, the signs are very well color-coded.
Right,
So,
right. Good point.
Yeah,
You
so
know.
The signs are red, white, and
knowing.
blue.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, in our neck of the woods, it was red, red, red for the
Same,
Republicans
exactly,
and blue
yeah.
for
All
blue
right.
for the Democrats. Yeah, and I am definitely a proud Democrat. I definitely think that there are big differences between Republicans and Democrats. Again, on the town level, I don't think that is a defining characteristic, and I don't think it needs to be on the signs.
Well, I want to thank all of you for coming in and sharing your experiences. A lot easier to do this after the fact, I want to say.
Oh, yeah.
But will you're all running for re-election starting right now, so will you, sorry. Will you come back next fall? Will you talk to us in the interim? Will you be accessible here?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just appreciate it so much. And I want to say to people like Bill Smith, who was reelected in Pittsford, a Republican, so many other local leaders are very accessible as well.
Great.
And when we call, they say yes, they come on. It's important. Thank you all for doing it. Congratulations on your win. Congratulations to anybody, no matter your party. If you put the effort forward to run,
Absolutely.
this is a hard.
Yeah.
So thank you all. Jenn Townsend, the supervisor-elect in Perinton. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Amorette Miller, council member-elect in the town of Greece. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Evan.
Kevin Berry, supervisor-elect in the town of Penfield. Talk to you soon here. Thank you.
Thank you.
And from all of us at Connections, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Reminder, PBS Sunday night, the first of a 6-part series. Ken Burns' new series on the American Revolution. Tune in for that, and we'll talk to you next week on member-supported public media.
This program is a production of WXXI Public Radio. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of this station, its staff, management, or underwriters. The broadcast is meant for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or use in another medium without expressed written consent of WXXI is strictly prohibited. Connections with Evan Dawson is available as a podcast. Just click on the Connections link at WXXInews.org.